because they elicited a fair number of incorrect responses. So in terms of the exam results, we have quite a varied picture. This graph shows the distribution of marks on the exam. We have, and this is following a remarking that I did in light of the fact that I thought 3 questions on balance were too ambiguous. There's information not specified, for example, that new.txt was in fact a new file, that it wasn't an existing file. I didn't explicitly state that, and so someone could reasonably say, well, given specified what new.txt is, and the answer would differ based on that if it's new or if it's not. There was one question where I asked about assertions, and that was based on some comments I made about assertions, but because we didn't get to cover them before the exam, I felt it wasn't really fully fair for me to be responsible for that. So I did rule out 3 questions actually on the exam. They're originally there because I didn't want to dock the marks for things that were ambiguous or otherwise problematic. So we can see here in the scores of the exam, we have fairly normally distributed curve, although it's a bit got heavy tails. So the mean on the exam was 64%. And it's got fairly widespread. There were a couple folks who got in the 90s, which is very, very impressive. There were a growing number in the 80s and 70s. Most people fell pretty solidly in the 60s. There were some below that, and some individuals had considerable difficulty and fell below the passing mark for this exam. The scores on this exam were interesting in the sense that, well, we had a mean that fell in the 60s. If you look at every particular question on the exam, think in every single question on this exam, the large majority of people got that question correct. Okay? So, for example, these are sort of statistics which I get back from this exam remarking. So here, you want to C is the so-called mode of the distribution. It's the most common single answer. And C is marked up there with a star and bold as the correct answer. I did provide an answer key to you folks on Moodle a couple days back that you can refer to. And you'll find that in every exam question, question after question, the correct one was, in fact, the most common one. So what does that mean in terms of interpretation of this? If for a given question, the large majority of people got it right, what does that suggest if the average of exam results is still down around 64%? Well, it actually suggests a good thing in terms of the exam, that it wasn't that there were just some people who got question after question after question totally wrong, while others got them all consistently correct. It suggests that questions were testing different things, and while a given individual might have been quite likely to have the correct answer for any one question, the likelihood that they got all of them correct, one after the other, was pretty limited. They were testing different things, okay? So what we have is a situation where the knowledge of the folks in the room seems to be pretty good on a question-by-question basis. It's just sort of that breadth of knowledge. So looking back on the exam results on a per-student basis, it's clear that some people, for example, had great strength for certain types of questions, like questions involving maybe Linux commands, but were a bit weaker when it came to regular expressions, or vice versa. And it suggests that further for the development of sort of breadth on student parts is required. And this is one of the reasons I asked my lab TA for this class. Instead of having a lab, which was largely planned out, I decided, okay, let's use that time for exam questions. And I'd urge all of you folks to take advantage of that and ask questions. I'd also encourage you to ask questions of me, either here in class via office hours particularly, so that I can address any questions that come out of the exam. I'm going to be thinking about further ways that I might be able to work towards strengthening understanding in particular topic areas. For example, making sure that when it comes on to the final exam that you're not, 2 months out of date with respect to regular expressions, or a month too late in terms of your memory of certain Unix commands. So I'd like to try to keep that current. So I think I'm going to try to weave something in to the assignments and the labs, maybe to keep that current, but also into the discussions here in lecture. So we're here to support you. I think by and large the class did pretty well, actually. The statistics were much better than they are in some other classes or in some past years of this class, I believe. But I am here to try to make sure that people just feel comfortable that they can answer these exams. So to that end, folks, is there anyone who would like to ask a question on one of the questions on the exam right now? Maybe you didn't get what you felt was an adequate answer from the lab TA. Maybe you felt that you felt confused having looked over the key as to why a certain answer was correct. Does anyone want to ask a question now? Yeah. Good. I appreciate that question. And one of my foremost regrets with the exam review section was that I don't think I explicitly covered those two. And I was sort of kicking myself after that video. And, I kind of I could have given you folks a little bit of a more thorough review, and I didn't. Okay, so the first thing you got to know, I should probably be recording this. Nope, I am. Okay, great. You know what they say about absent-minded professors. The first thing you should know is that different programs that you'll use in coming years are going to have slightly different syntax for regular expressions. By syntax, I mean it's sort of encoded how they sort of phrase the regular expression. Okay, and I'm going to be talking here about a syntax that's used in grep or particularly egrep. Okay, but you should realize that if you fire up Notepad++ on Windows, it makes use of a slightly different syntax. If you do something in other text editors like VI or like Emacs, it may do something a bit different. I'm going to be talking about egrep. Okay, you should just bear this in mind, particularly with extended regular expressions. So there's this character backslash, and this is a small w, and then there's a backslash big W. Okay. These look similar, but they're very different. In fact, they're opposites of one another. Okay. So this guy here encodes characters that are word characters. I think I mentioned this at one point in lecture, but I didn't. In fact, I know I mentioned it in lecture, but I didn't bring it up in the review session. So this could be unpacked into the following thing. In fact, I'm going to let you tell me how to unpack it. How if I wanted to say that this, I want to give another regular expression that sort of is the equivalent of this. I want it to be all characters, all alphabetic characters, numeric characters in the underbar. How would I encode that as a regular expression? Yeah, okay. So A through Z lowercase, A through Z uppercase, single character drawn from this set. Well, what is this guy? Everything else. And there's a way to indicate that I taught you. Yeah, use a caret at the beginning of it. Now this is important to note because it's confusing. Confusing a lot. What is a caret? Like if you see a caret, what's your first reaction to it, other than wanting to eat it? What is that? Yeah, so it's the line beginning. The beginning of the line is normally what it codes. But if it's the first character after a square bracket, it means not. It means everything except these things. So that's what this guy is. And without the caret, that's what this guy is. Okay? So that's what impacts it. So it's not a. Now this seems like a weird. Like why this set of characters? What's particularly privileged about alphanumerics and numbers like that in an underbar? Why would you pick that up? Why not, hash and bang and the asterisk or something like that? Okay, so they are usable in Foundling, so that's one thing. They're not everything that can be used in a Foundling, but they're commonly used in that. But where else are they used? Unix was sort of co-evolved with what programming language? C. Yeah, you folks don't know, but there was actually a B, and there was actually a D, but the D didn't go anywhere. And so the C was the sort of language that came out. In fact, Unix was basically written in C. And what does this have to do with C? Well, these are the characters that can be used for identifiers in C. By identifier, I mean like a variable, or a structure, or the name of a function, or whatever. Those are those characters, right? Can't use a dash. Like, why underbar rather than dash? You can't use a dash in a function. You can't say, for example, foo dash bar in C. That's not allowed. You can say foo underbar. Foo underbar bar. So you can say that. So these characters that are acceptable in identifiers in C. And so if you're looking for an identifier, or you're looking to find identifier names, this is how you look for it. So this is what \w means. And it means one of these characters. This is an escape character. This backslash means sort of this is something special, right? This is something special. And you can string these things together. You can do this. What would this guy mean? Yeah, one or more of those. So it's just like putting a plus after this. It may seem a little bit confusing because it kind of means, it's like this whole thing plus. It's not just a W. W, you just repeat it aloud. It's the whole sort of unit. Because this backslash W stands for a word character. So it's just like putting it up. Does that make sense? And I'll tell you folks that there's lots of other good things like this. Another one that's used, and honestly, I use so many tools, I forget which one. For sure this is for, but I'm pretty sure it works with egress. It's \s. Anyone know what that is? Yeah, it's a space, or it's actually white space. What else? So white space can be a space character 32 in ASCII, or character 20 if we denote it with hexadecimal. But so it could be a space, but what else could it be? It could be white space, a tab. Yeah. So these can be spaces or tabs, and so you can look for this followed by word character, or more word characters followed by something that's not a word. It's not a word character. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if what we really care about is this, how do we remember it? Yeah, you put parens around it. Oh man, I tell you, this is like one of my bane existence. These parens, sometimes some tools that you have to put a backslash in front of them. Here you don't. Kind of for the birds. But if what I really cared about was this, and this is just saying, hey, something follows that I don't really care about. What other character could I use for this in regular expressions to indicate something that, say, this is the end of the word? I can do this. Remember that? This guy sort of says, okay, that's the end of the word there. So I could have this instead. All I care about is kind of remember that. If all I care is that this is everything up the end of the word that I want to remember, then I could have indicated the end of the word with this. This doesn't indicate a particular character. This guy actually indicates a specific character. This is just saying, oh, now it's the end of the word here. But that's a bit of a subtlety. But does that make sense for the W's? Okay. Other questions? This is great. I know you folks may not have come prepared for this, so what I'm going to have as a standing offer is I'm going to try, at least next time, to open the floor to questions at the beginning. So if you have questions, come with them next time, and I'd be glad to answer them. Okay? And if it has to be taken offline because we're too specialized, we can meet in office hours or credit classes. So sometimes people come up right after class to talk, and I encourage that as well. Fantastic. Okay, any other questions? One final thing I just want to point out. So with respect to this, the marks, some of you, so I'm anticipating entering the marks later today. I have to go through 90 sort of things, and make sure everything is correctly contributed and so on. We'll be doing that, and some of you are going to get marks up here. So a lot of you are going to get marks in here, and some of you are going to get marks here. I want to say something, therefore, that I think couldn't be said enough in computer science class. It certainly isn't said, ladies and gentlemen. Computer science, it's not fun if you're a student to get back to a mark in sort of this area. I know what it's like to still am a student, it's not fun, and sometimes it makes you wonder what might cut out for this. Your performance in this class, there's no question that it will help. It will help in later classes. This class is designed to provide a bunch of skills which can be really useful for some later classes. Some of those I teach, things like 271, software engineering. Others are classes that are on operating systems. But neither of those classes, for example, are ones you have to take. It turns out computer science now, more so than ever before, is an incredibly diverse field. Okay? And if you get this class and you're kind of scraping by and you're not able to perform at the level you would have liked, but you think you have some basic skills in this area, believe me, there's probably some place in computer science that you could just thrive. And it may not be the sort of skills that are exercised here. We have courses in our program, and there's huge opportunities out there, external to university, in a breadth of areas of computer science that have very limited connection to anything we're talking about in this course. They can be helped by, but you shouldn't feel like if you're not doing well in this course, it's a sign that you're not ready for computer science, or you're not right for computer science. This course has one particular set of issues in computer science. There's lots of others. There's aspects of computer science that have more to do with human-computer interaction, for example. How to design an interface that invites people to use it, that isn't frustrating. I myself do a lot of work in applications and health of computer science, which, certainly the skills here can help, but you're not heavily reliant on them at all times, and there's many people who wouldn't make strong use of them. There's people who apply computer science to aspects of IT, sort of at the database level, where the skills here are not going to be, a heavy component of their needs. So I don't want people to think that, you know, if they're in this lower area that they can't do this course. I'm here to help you to make sure you can do this course with appropriate help. And it also shouldn't be taken as an indication you can't do computer science. It's far too broad an area for that. There's lots and lots of opportunities for people with different strengths in the people area, strengths in the area of sort of application of that. And this course is by no means sort of a course which rates people on their ability to do computer science. That being said, my hat is off to, and I salute the people who have gotten really good skills here, because you will find that it opens extra opportunities for you in a very strong way. And I'll be sending a few emails around for students who have done particularly well, you know, commenting on how they've done. I like to look through, see how different students do, figure out where I might be able to help certain types of students. So really, some people did very, very well, and that's a result of hard work. It's a result of careful thinking. It's a result of time management, and my hat is off to you. Okay, so I'm here to help. Glad to work with people, and this is a midterm checkpoint, and let's see what we can do for everyone to make sure that the remainder of the course is one that you can grow on. You can, having learned some of the strengths, learned some of the areas where you might need further strength, you might need to focus. Having learned that from this exam, it gives you a chance to really invest in those areas and shine. And I'm there for that. So those are just some comments on the exam, and again, I'm going to make sure that you'll have plenty of questions, plenty of time to ask questions of me for future lectures.